joining us, and I have Miss Shaquita Wynn in the studio with a fly hat on this evening.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And hey, everybody knows Doc Polite is gonna bring it. So we got Doc Polite. He doesn't have on his brim
Rims,
today.
I
I
know.
knew y'all was gonna pick up on that.
You keep switching up on us, man. But
What can
hey,
I say? Hey, you know I had a long weekend with them grandkids, so
yeah, that's right, man. So it went well.
yeah, we had we had,
Birthday.
we had 7 of them together. We had a good time. Man, to see your legacy in front of you alive
That's it. That's it.
is an amazing man. It just warmed my heart to be granddaddy sitting there. I'm like, I'm a grandfather, a real live grandfather.
Hey, you in the space and place that when you were looking at your grandfather, you were like, okay, granddaddy. But now you are granddaddy.
Well, what my dad's father passed the year I was born. Matter of fact, a few months before I was born, and the other granddaddy he wasn't spitting the wind, so we won't go there.
Well,
But now I had a great grandfather that was, guess what year he was born? 1896.
Oh, wow.
long time.
And
Long
Long time.
time.
yeah, and that's why I always tell people we think that that oppression and things are so far away when I have a great grandfather that I got to see alive that was born in 1896. So
So now you grandpa.
yeah,
Now you
and
grandpa. You setting the
yeah,
stage
yeah,
for
and
your lineage to
that's
step into
right.
that space.
That's right. And I want them to know about old Grandpa Charlie Rutherford.
Listen
You
here.
know,
Hey,
I
let me
want them
say
to
for
know.
those of you who are joining the sit down is intended to bring you information from a community based standpoint. We invite programs on the show so that you can actually speak directly to your audience. Let people know what your organization is doing, the space and the place that it fills in communities, and that's what we'll continue to do. Um, I would be remiss, and I know this is a show to talk about what's taking place that affects and impacts people in communities. Um, I would be remiss if I didn't say that, I thank God that um, that our former president was not killed this weekend. That's the only way to
Yes,
say it. But
yes.
I also want to say a prayer for the families of those victims that were just attending
Yeah.
a rally. I mean,
Indecent
yeah.
bystanders. Yes.
And we talk about democracy. We talk about the fact that we enjoy freedoms. Just want to say, from the perspective of this show, that we condemn violence. We condemn what took place this weekend. No matter your likes and dislikes, there's never a reason to pick up a gun and take things into your own hand because of a political process.
Yes. Yes.
And so, once again, I want to extend our prayers to the, the families that lost loved ones that were going to attend a rally about democracy. And I also want to just say, man, there's never ever a time for this to take place at the highest level of the land when you're talking about the attempted assassination of an individual who was the president, but an individual who's presently running to be the president again. And I say this on both sides. We need to bring the rhetoric down.
Yes. Yes.
We need to bring it down and we need to condemn it. So, I know that's not something, Doc and Ms. Wynn, that we ever start our show on, but, we can't ignore it.
Right. Right. It happened in our own backyard. So.
It happened in our own backyard, and so we cannot ignore it. Um, and I know people. I mean, we normally have conversations about what's taking place in communities. How do we get the message out? How do people access resources? But those services about democracy too,
Yes, it is. Yes, sir.
and
Yes,
it's
sir.
about being gracious. It's about being benevolent. And so, man, I mean, I wanted to say it. I wanted to hit it, and we're gonna go into our conversations, but man,
That
that
was unbelievable.
that was
That was unbelievable.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty much I'm pretty much gonna pass on
Okay.
all of it. You know, I have very strong feelings about what went on. Of course, I'm a person. I believe in live and let live, and that there's never a need to resort to violence. But I understand that oftentimes people feel marginalized or they're not seen or not heard, and they feel that that's the only resource
But that is
they
tough,
have.
man. That
And
is
no,
we
no,
can't even have a conversation about people feeling. I mean,
listen,
we
listen.
have conversations. That
I understand that, but it not having a conversation, Rod, does not mute the fact that those feelings are out there,
we all have
and
different
and
different
and
feelings
it's
about it.
never that's never the solution, and
Correct. I
that's
agree with
what that's what I'm pointing out, that people get to that point, and we've got to learn how to make allowances for them. This young man, I don't know his politics, but no political action should include attempted murder, assassination, or any type of violence because you don't like what that person says.
it.
You know,
And
you've made it. You've took something that's philosophical and turned it into something personal,
Yeah.
and we
you're right.
can't do that. You know, I would. You know, I'm a big mouth, so I hope that I'm able to say what I want to say, but I do understand that my words can trigger
Words
things
are
in
powerful.
people.
Yes.
Words are powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Doc, and I'll say this because you serve this country, and you know, I got to tell you, man, appreciate your service, but that's one of the principles that you serve is so that we have freedoms to like what we like, dislike, and that is it.
Let me tell you, this is how much I believe in America. When I was a young sergeant, I had jury duty, not jury duty, but guard duty in the military. In I don't know if y'all know where Milledgeville is in Georgia. It's about 45 minutes north of Fort Stewart. I was stationed at Fort Stewart, and they were having these problems in that town. And one weekend, the Klan put together a march. Guess what? Well, they called down to the fort and asked for assistance. So we had to get in deuce in the quarters and get transported up there and stand out there on the corners and stuff. We didn't have any weapons, but we had like nightsticks and our helmets on and stuff, just as a presence. Okay? I did not have a problem with standing out there protecting the Klan. You know why? Because that is America.
That's
That's what
America.
we have the right to do. You have the right to express yourself. I don't have to agree with you. I don't have to like you, but I have to respect the fact
You're right.
and protect your right to be whatever you want to be, because it's not just about you, it's about me as well. Because when I get ready
You're right.
to express
Right.
what I want to express, I want to have that same freedom I'm willing to give you and afford you, and the same respect. And now we're living in a time when that does not seem to be the case.
It doesn't.
But we
It
got
doesn't.
we have to as a country. And Doc, you said you man, I wanted to leave it on what you said because you said it very gracefully and you put a period on it. But I mean, we're at a point in place that we got to put pressure on one another to say what this country's all about, and that is we are the leader of the free world, and let's act like it. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to put a stick in the mud on that and stay there that long, and I'm looking at the clock on the wall, and it's
Yeah.
telling me, man, you spent some time on that. But what I really want us to spend time on is Doc and I and Miss Wynn, we were talking about what topic, absent guests on the show this evening, were we going to discuss? And just like Doc likes fishing. Let me tell y'all, Doc likes fishing. And for those of you who are familiar with opening up a can of worms, Doc started opening up the can. And I said, you know
We
what,
had to
Doc?
pause
Yeah.
it.
I say, Doc, man, because we were, and Miss Wynn was standing in the doorway, and I said, y'all know what? This is
Save it for the show.
Save it for the show. Save it for the show. So, for those of you who are watching the sit down, we welcome you to join us. Give us some of your ideas, some of your thoughts. That phone number to call in is 321-483-7002. And we welcome, and thanks, Doc. We welcome you to join this conversation. And Doc, I'm gonna go ahead and pass the baton.
Well, we were so fervently debating, as we often do.
Fervently. I like that.
Okay, we were talking about what does it take to for us to start empowering ourselves in our community.
When you say us,
And I'm saying the black community.
Okay.
I want to emphasize that. I want to separate that because we got into this this thing, and we were talking about what nonprofits do. I was saying that collectively, black folks need to start really investing, both financially and as well as other means, into building our communities. Rod opposition was, well, where do we fund that from? And I said, from our pockets.
okay, that was my opposition. Well, it wasn't even opposition to you. Doc.
Yeah,
You know,
your
I
observation.
love you. It wasn't in opposition. It was you and I. We challenge each other.
Yeah,
On a regular basis.
yeah,
Miss Wynn
exactly.
Challenges, but you say what I did. You didn't say what Miss Wynn. Miss Wynn was asking you the
And-
question. Standing in the doorway, I might add, what does that look like what you're talking about?
Exactly. And so I said, what it looks like is us taking a financial responsibility for each other in identifying the things that we as a community can invest in. See, the thing about investments, most people think that it takes a lot of personal money to do these kind of things, when in fact it takes very little. It's the commitment. So when I was working on a political candidate for Orlando City Council, I came up with this program called Dollars for the District. Okay, and the idea was to get pledges from people in that community. Okay, to every month give $1 for the district. Okay, and take those and identify organizations like I just say Paramore's Kids Owns or New Life Image Center. Help them. What are your needs? This month you having problem meeting maybe your payroll or your lights. You understand? This is investing into our community on it, and it's like micro investments basically.
That almost kind of remind me of the Black Wall Street.
Right.
Investing back in your own community and growing from your
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, and when we talk about Black Wall Street, and Black Wall Street was a great success.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But as I recall Black Wall Street, and y'all correct me and the callers and audience that's watching this, Black Wall Street was not about consumption. It was about producing something. of
Right.
value.
Right.
So I don't mean to push back on you, Ms. Lynn, but you know, the same thing with Doc, with, you know, community contributing $1 or whatever it can contribute. And like you said, Doc, similar, and I want us to hit these high points and like retreat so that we can respond. But Doc, those issues that you're talking about with PKZ and things of that nature, those issues address a social need, a social
Exactly.
issue that-
Exactly.
I will say this. You have organizations in those communities that are getting contract dollars to address those needs that also have outcomes that they're responsible for. So my big issue, and I'll make sure our audience know and understand where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe in volunteerism. I believe in generosity. But we're talking about something that's going to have to be consistent, going to have to be sustainable. And you're talking about people making these donations. You're talking about philanthropic
Right.
contributions.
And I understand. I understand.
I
So
think that
so
consistency is the main word.
here's the thing. I look at problems in this light. There's always a choice in solving a problem. You can bemoan, complain about the problem until and wait for someone else to provide a solution, or you can say, this is what the problem is. Here's a solution I can do right now that's going to impact the problem and mitigate or begin to address the issues it caused, but I can also do this. I can go over here and petition and advocate for that.
I,
In the meantime, I know my community needs these resources, so I'm going to help out through volunteerism, okay, and giving a dollar, $5 a month. But I'm going to also make it my business to go downtown and say, hey, this agency, you gave them $11 million to provide these resources to my community. Where are they? Why are we not getting these things?
That would be the
Okay,
same as that
and then
individual that is contributing that $5.
And then you got to learn how to put your messaging out there, because if you want your neighbors to take action, guess what? If you go tell them they being robbed every month, no, what? I'm getting robbed. Yeah, this is how they rob me. You explain things to people to their understanding level, and then they could take action. A lot of people don't know how to deal with city hall and bureaucracy, so they say, they just throw their hands up. But if you get enough people together and we come up with a solution, it's like
well, Doc, I hear what you're saying, and I'm not proposing or encouraging people being at the trough. But Doc, let me ask you this question: do you know how the not Fortune 500, but Fortune 100 companies in America? Do you know where 90% of them got their beginnings? How they started?
through government contracts and funding. I understand that. But because they did, doesn't mean that that same opportunity is afforded us. Let's be real. Let's be real. Because and so we can sit there and complain that we're not getting our fair share. But does that complaint do anything? So let's do something rather than just the complaining.
Well,
Because
I'm not a complainer. And Miss Wynn, I'm gonna let you jump in because see, Doc and I will take over the rest of the show. Doc and I will take over. Hey, Doc, Miss Wynn over here doing this like she in church. You know, you got to jump into this stuff. But I hear what Doc is saying, and I'm not a complainer, but I'm strategic. And Doc, as you mentioned, when you say look at what other organizations are doing and what they're receiving as financial remunerations for what they're doing, what I'm saying is I'm not knocking them, but you have traditional organizations, historical organizations that are multi-billion-dollar organizations right now, and they're doing a lot of the social good work, if you would. But what's the difference in their participation in a process that affords them the opportunity to be consistent, to have a foothold in communities, and to serve a greater good, if you would? Why can't we participate in that same process? That if you look at the sustainability,
that's easy. That's easy. That's an easy answer.
that ain't easy, Doc.
Yes, it is. You know what it is?
Okay, Doc,
Yeah,
Explain.
here's the answer. Life ain't fair.
it's not. You're right.
But we can't
Hey.
complain about life.
No, life ain't fair. It will never be fair. There is nowhere in any book or any doctrine where it says that life is fair.
I agree with you.
So
But
we have to understand that life is not fair, but we can do things to bring about some semblance of equity, okay? And find a way to change the playing field.
That's what your main question is when you say find a way, when you just say
Right.
it's not fair.
But you can't do that, Miss Wynn, when 90% of your energy is going toward complaining. See, and that's what many of our organizations do. And the leadership does. They spend more energy complaining and holding meetings than they actually do with coming up with plans and trying different strategies.
Doc, you're on the right page. You're on the absolute right page, and you know I agree with you because you and I, we've seen that.
Yeah.
But so I'm not incorporating complainers in this conversation.
Listen, I didn't just get in the canoe last week. You know, I grew up with this. I grew up with my uncles and my family members being active in politics and community organizations. This was what I was raised on. And I saw this constantly as a boy. You know, going out and
have a good start, but what about the ones that don't have the start like that? You know,
but
we're not
but
complainers or anything. We're go-getters, but we need to know which direction to go in.
let
How do we
let
find that out?
let me say this. That man sitting next to you, you know why he's very successful?
Why?
Because he doesn't complain. He goes into the room. He makes allies, and he finds mentors, and he builds relationships. Okay, and in those relationships, him being black is not the primary factor. Him being disadvantaged is not the primary factor. Okay, that he tries to sell. He sells himself as a person who is well versed in knowledge of government entities and how they operate. He sells himself as a proven, proven problem solver and the ability to build strategic relationships. You
Doc,
understand?
and thank you for the compliment. But Doc, because you're taking people to school, and I like how you take people to school, I'm gonna ask Doc to go one step further. Doc is doing the diplomatic piece. Yeah, you make allies, you be strategic, but Doc, go ahead and let folks know while you're navigating and doing that, and you're having some wins and you're being successful, and you have, man, we have far more losses than we have wins, but people see our
Yeah,
wins.
exactly.
But Doc, let people know that in building that, whether it's from a competitive nature or not, you're also building some foes out there too.
Oh yeah, that's true. But often your foes are those who have not taken your strategies or taken any position. They want it handed to them. They often your foes are the ones who feel entitled to it. Okay?
Now we agree.
Instead see and that's the problem. See, they think it's overnight. Like I've gotten tremendous hate for my education. I'm telling you, I'm just sharing something with y'all.
Hey Doc,
And
that's because we, you know, for folks who are watching this show, this is the sit down. We have conversations, even though Doc has real talk conversations there. This is the sit down, but we're having one of those conversations about Doc and I, and I'm not even going to speak for Miss Wynn, but we're having a conversation about how effective and what's the route so that areas such as the black community, I'm going to add, with a lot of the ills that are taking place in communities.
how can we
relate
start?
to those ills.
Yeah, how can we start helping ourselves? That was my point in bringing up the subject. What real strategies can we begin to drop on day one that we can help ourselves? Let's identify those. One of the things is like I said, micro giving, and identifying organizations that we will foster as part of that micro giving. Okay, and we're teaching as we're doing this. We're also teaching our community how to build
So Doc,
that network of supporters.
yeah, on that note, but Miss Wynn, you brought up Black Wall Street.
Yes.
And Doc is talking
Yes.
about micro giving things of that nature, which
Yes.
I don't have a problem with. I support what you're saying, Doc.
Yeah.
If you ask me about which way am I leaning as it relates to the micro giving, I do believe we need to have allegiance and alliances in communities that are supportive. But I also say, man, when you look at the commitment and obligation of, I'm gonna just say, I'm not trying to feed at the trough, but government entities that are, I'm not even gonna say investing, because I don't know if looking at the outcomes is that high of a priority, but when you look at certain organizations that are on the ground that know how to provide services, we're looking at an ROI, basically. So when you mention Black Wall Street, and again, I can be proven wrong. I know Doc gonna go look this up later on, because that's what he does. But Black Wall Street were producers.
Yes, they were.
The majority of it was producers. They weren't consumers. You didn't hear about Black Wall Street. You heard about healthcare that Black Wall Street was providing to its community, but that healthcare came at a price.
Yes.
And
But
healthcare
but
was
what was the number one product that Black Wall Street produced?
I don't know. You tell me.
The number one product that that community produced were people who invested in the community and its well-being long term, because they made sure that they had excellent schools.
Okay, Doc.
They
Doc,
made
that-
sure that they had
on-
banking
on that
and the
note, what
ability.
Doc is leaving out, and I hate that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Doc.
Uh-huh.
See, me and Doc be having these conversations, and he get my blood going. But you had high vocational skills level of individuals that contributed to their community from Black Wall Street that were producers.
Exactly.
You also had, from a academic perspective, you had, man,
Exactly.
doctors. You had folk that were, Brother Jackson, who is who's an attorney, but I can't remember what he calls the trade. But Doc, you're not just talking about middle class or poor people contributing to their community, which they can do. But you're talking about, when you talk about Black Wall Street, they were middle class and upper class individuals with incomes that date back to that date that were extraordinary. That's why they called it Black Wall Street,
Well,
because it was producing and generating revenue unheard of.
Exactly, and that's the problem with naming it Black Wall Street in the modern vernacular, is because we tend to focus on the financial, just the financial aspect of what that community was able to produce, when in reality it produced black excellence.
Yeah, Doc, we got a couple of folk that have DM'd. They're saying that the link is not showing for the show. Facebook.
I'm not. It is. It's up.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Matter of fact, I'm looking at it now as well. Is it on LTN as well?
It should be.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure.
Don't get distracted, Doc.
Yeah, but I'm not sure why. I see it. I see it on. Are they looking on the Let's Talk Nation page?
Man, don't get distracted, man, because we're
Okay.
live.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
No, it's up. It's up on Let's Talk Nation page. It certainly is.
Okay.
I see it. So I don't know what they're trying to watch. But anyway, back. Yeah. Go pay your internet. I'm sorry. Now see, Rod. Hey, Rod. Now see, you turn me into roasting. Now don't. Now you know. Hey, y'all know that quick mouth of mine. But anyway, we gotta. I want people to understand. My heart has always been about a love for my community and for my people. And one of the things about love is, and we don't like to think of this, but discipline is love. Correction is love.
Yeah.
See, I love you enough to correct you where you don't harm yourself by continuing the same destructive behavior. So I want to make sure that whatever is going on, I am able to give the feedback to my community. And now, Doc don't just criticize without having a solution.
Yeah.
Or a train of thought of a process. Because if I'm gonna tell you your problem, I'm gonna tell you why it's a problem and some solutions that can take place to it. See, I'm not a complainer that just complains.
Right.
I'm a thinker that has thought about this and really turned it over. Okay, me and Ron have some great conversation. That's why I love him. That's my brother, and we get heated, but it's never any disrespect.
You're right.
Okay,
That's
and,
a lesson I think
and
everybody
yeah,
can learn from.
and we respect each other's point of view. Okay, because I know that where he's coming from, it's a place of love and respect as a brother, and he knows the same thing about me.
And you know what, Miss Wynn? You can bear witness to this because when we were preparing for the show, and we were going back and forth about what this topic was going to be, I said to Doc like 3 or 4 times. I say, hey, brother, you sure you want to go there?
Yes.
And Doc, Doc just being stubborn, he's like, he started putting his chest out. Yeah. I say, Doc, now,
Let's go for it.
I'm not rolling with you on this, but I'm not going to be rolling against you. I'm going to roll with my perspective. And, Doc say, let's go, let's get it. And you see how he pushed it back.
Yeah, but I never take things personal. In debating, and because what I'm doing is looking for perspective. I'm always interested in perspective. How long are we going to continue to march around and say we shall overcome and we got a dream? Dreaming is a state of unconsciousness and unaware. That's the only way that you can dream. Do you want to live unconsciously and unaware?
And Doc, by pulling up the Black Wall Street,
Mm-hmm.
it says in there they had 30 grocery stores,
Mm,
21 churches,
exactly.
21 restaurants, 2 movie theaters, school, library, law office, hospital, bank, post
See,
office.
that's producing.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's amazing about that? If you go back and we were able to intervene or interview those people, the hub of that community would have been those black churches.
Yeah, you're right.
And those black churches were the moral standard and the moral holders to instill pride, understanding, and obedience, teaching people how to live in harmony and peace.
Hey, Doc, I got 2 points I want you to address for me. One, you talked about, because Ms. Wynn, and I thought you said maybe 21 churches or so forth.
21 churches.
So, Doc, address the faith community perspective when you talk about Black Wall Street, because you said that was the nucleus, that was the hub.
Well, one of the things that it's hard to live without a moral direction and foundation. What's right and what's wrong. Okay, currently in our community, many of us live without a distinction between what's right and wrong. This is why we can flow and do all of these things and have all of this chaos that resides in homes.
Doc,
Huh?
with that, and I got to put a comma, not a pause, not a period. When you say live by what's right or wrong,
Mm-hmm.
kind of define that as it relates to now. It's one of those deals where it's
In no way am I disparaging women, but I want to point out something. There was a time in our community where women were not loose. A woman would value herself to the point where she was not putting herself out there to every Tom, Dick, and Harry to have an opportunity to even interact with her. Okay. Her modesty and her beauty were reserved, and that was not so much social influence. It's that women understood their value then. I don't think women understand their value now. Young women don't.
And that's a topic for a whole
Yeah,
other show.
yeah. And so, yeah, I know.
We got 10 minutes left.
I know.
Doc, you see, that's what Doc does. When he calls me like 10 o'clock at night and want to have a quick conversation, but he know that's going to be like a
Turn into
midnight.
something
Yeah.
else.
But the larger view, though, Rod, is that when we don't have a compass, when we have no moral compass, we just lost. It's lost in.
To the faith community
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Black
So
Wall Street and the
so
21 churches. That's
so
the one thing.
when the church shifted to this this kind of prosperity message, I won't blame it all on prosperity messaging, okay? Because people, uh, it's the church issue in the black community is very complex. There are many catalysts and reasons why it's fallen off. They don't like to hear that. Preachers don't like to hear this. But the fact is that the black church is on the decline,
But my whole point
and
was,
significantly,
go ahead, Doc.
it has there's a problem with the message that's being portrayed from the pulpit.
Okay, so my point to that was to compliment what you said about the fact that Black Wall Street had 21 communities churches of faith, which was the nucleus. That check off. The next thing that I said, Doc, I mentioned two things, and it actually is three. The next thing was when we started talking about Black Wall Street and we did a comparison to our discussion tonight, I specifically emphasized that Black Wall Street, by and large, was a producer, not a consumer.
Right.
Just validated that. And the last thing, Doc, I want to say to you is I don't know if you realize what just happened here about 5 minutes ago.
What's that?
Do you realize Miss Wynn went and fact checked us?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Hey, Miss Wynn, we know our stuff now. Trust me.
Hey,
Hey, Rod will tell you I will research, and I'm not that person that go look on Google. I go into the files. See, I go and find research papers and evidence based information. I don't look for what I want to hear.
I'm learning, Doc.
Yeah.
I'm like, let
Doc,
me just go Google.
Doc, we were all flowing.
Yeah.
And you know, this was organic. And I went out and gave my description of Black Wall Street as it relates to our conversation here, what it was, what it meant, and you gave your piece, and you and I are doing this.
Yep.
And I'm looking out this, I'm looking my peripheral vision, and I see her doing, and but she actually did research,
But-
to fact check us.
Now, exactly. Now, Miss Wynn, and think about this, Miss Wynn. Think about the amount of dedication and focus that those people had to achieve that when many of them came out of slavery or were the first generation after slavery.
It's almost like, how did the leader or whoever got that community together
That's a
to
key.
build all of
Be-
this, to make
Now
this?
you're talking. Now you're talking.
Because they saw the results of the vision
So how do
that
we get
that
our
leader.
community to have that type of vision?
Man, not
There you go. We've got to have leaders that produce something.
Produce.
We've got to have leaders that can take you and say, if we do this, here's what we can achieve.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we've got-
But do you see how effective? I mean, the sit down team is, man, second to none. I know we got the general and myself coming on at the 7 o'clock show on Let's Talk Nation, where we make those IQs go up. But Ms. Wynn, appreciate what you just did. Me and Doc gonna talk to you about fact checking us. On here.
I have no problem.
Yeah, no issue. But Ms. Wynn, if you would again tell the audience, because the conversation was Black Wall Street was by and large a producer, not a consumer. And when you fact checked us, can you go ahead and tell the audience again what Black Wall Street, the services, the products that existed?
Yes, the services, they had 30 grocery stores, 21 churches, 21 restaurants, 2 movie theaters, schools, libraries with an S, law office, hospital, bank, post office, and a bus system.
And a bus system. 2 things, Doc, and this I'm gonna pass it back to you, Doc, because this is a page out of your book. When you talk about libraries and schools, not only was it a producer of something, but it also invested in its future
Exactly.
to educate.
Exactly. So now those kids lived in a community where they knew that they could be what? Lawyers, doctors,
Way before
pastors.
the Bible.
Right,
Way before-
right. They weren't walking around talking about, ooh, I'm celebrating the first black this. I'm celebrating the first black that.
Right.
They saw it and lived it every day.
Yeah.
Okay? So they didn't have to wonder if it was possible. They knew that it was possible. And all they had to do was follow the community's leadership.
Yeah.
Go to school. Okay?
Get that education.
You're right.
Th-
This
th-
is a good
go
conversation.
go
And
go
you
to
did
school.
mention something that I didn't know in detail when I spoke about Black Wall Street being a producer of something. You drilled it down to some specificity, and I want you to send me that too because
And
that's what
and,
we need.
and the one thing we could say about all those people that live there, they were all coachable.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, you gotta want to learn or be receptive to learning in order to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now we live in an age of self pride where you don't tell me this, you don't tell me that.
You're right. Doc, so we have 3 minutes left. I'm gonna use 1 minute, and I'm looking at the clock real quick to say the show was talking about how do we invest in communities. Your perspective, Doc, was micro giving, things of that nature from the community. My counter side to that is why does other organizations, why can they be created and utilize resources that taxpayers contribute to create the greater good, if you would. And now I'm gonna bring this on home. I also believe you have these organizations that are, by and large, maybe small business, minority, black, that even though they're doing social services, they are producers or something. And the way that you see what you produce is looking at the return on investment. So if you're keeping kids out of the detention center, you're keeping guns out of kids' hands, if you do the equivalence of looking at how much does it cost to lock this kid up or this grown-up up, mental health services. So that's producing, because when you look at these historical organizations that are multi-million-dollar organizations, people say social service. Social service also produces something and not just taking. So Doc, as we wind down, I'll tell you what, Miss Wynn, I'm gonna pass it to you, and then Doc, I'm gonna let him look at the clock. So, what's your thoughts as we wind on down?
My thought is bringing the community together, having, like Doc say, a leader that would be able to design your playbook for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you go by this playbook, this is what your outcome will be. You can hit that touchdown.
Yeah, you're right.
You know?
I agree.
You got to
Yeah.
design it, and it takes all of us
You're right.
to come together.
And on that note, when you talk about leaders, and I'm gonna pass it on to you, Doc. You got to have, and Doc, keep your eyes on the clock because you like to take me over. But you got to have leaders that are willing to follow. Doc, I pass the ball to you.
Okay, I want to say this is not a very super complex problem. It's very simple to start addressing it, and that is two people get together and they decide, I'm going to support this organization. I'm going to go and volunteer 8 hours a month to this organization and give $80 a month, and I'm going to make it my business to find 2 other people to do that. And then they pass it on and they get 2 other people to do that, and so forth and so forth. And after a while, we have an army of people who are now supporting and showing that unity can produce the outcomes that we want.
I don't disagree with you. You, my brother, and I love you. We might vary on this topic, but this was a great topic. And Doc, Ms. Wynn, we got to come back and revisit this because I think this opened up some avenues for people to think about. Once again, the sit-down takes place every Monday from 6 to 6:45. We welcome you to be part of the conversation. If you have an organization that's contributing to communities, please get a hold of us. You can reach us at 407-494-2406. Ask for Ms. Wynn if you want to be on the show. But once again, Doc, Ms. Wynn, y'all always know how to stir the pot. Hey, until next week on the sit down, please join us so that we can have a conversation about what's taking place in your community. Ms. Wynn, appreciate you. Doc, brother, I love you, brother.
All right, love you too, man.
I'll see y'all next week.
All right.